wish my kids would listen that much. Wow. Ouais, that's it, huh? Merci beaucoup à tout le monde ici. Thanks everyone for being here. You knew what you hear, so I'm not going to take too much time. Other than to say that I want to say a warm welcome to Jenica Atwin, the candidate for Fredericton for the federal election, and Tim Thompson, Fundy Royal. Anybody who's going to be MP soon? No? Anybody else? All right. Okay. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce you Jonathan Richardson. You know who he is. Right. Merci.
Hello. Last week, one of my clients lost their funding from the government. Their likely prognosis is time in prison or an institution for the remainder of their life. People often, for a variety of reasons, get funding pulled from them. I'm not saying that any individual staff person within the government is at fault. However, the political focus of traditional party politics is not aligned with my values. I got into politics because I saw the injustice occurring every day to those most vulnerable in our society, while volunteering as a legal liaison officer. And since then, I've worked in disaster relief, a women's addiction rehabilitation center, a helpline for those in need, and my current career as a behavior analyst. The common issue I see in all of the jobs I've had is the funding provided by the government. I joined the New Democratic Party in 2014 and had since been through a whirlwind of experience, up to and including provincial campaign director and my current elected position as the Atlantic representative on the federal executive of Canada's NDP. I get to see the inside workings of a party, and I can say without a doubt that the people involved are passionate about working to solve the same issues that I care about. Unfortunately, in New Brunswick, the NDP does not have a path to victory. I very much have the same desire to help the most vulnerable, especially as it pertains to their contact with the criminal justice system. However, the only way I can see the change we desperately need is to become the government or by holding the balance of power. Either option can see immense benefit to those who need it the most in New Brunswick. Fortunately, there is another party that I also align with and also believes in rectifying the damages the government has done to our most vulnerable, the Green Party. Today, I'm asking progressives in New Brunswick to work together and challenge the old party ways of liberal and conservative. Of course, I will miss my friends I've made in the NDP, but I must remain focused on why I got involved in politics, to make a difference for people. I still remember the speech from former Ontario NDP leader Stephen Lewis at the Edmonton Convention. It was amazing, mesmerizing, and everything I believed in. And it allowed me to imagine a better world. But I also believe that if you don't form government, none of those values I hold dear will ever come to fruition. It is also evident that the NDP no longer has a path to any winnable seats in New Brunswick. Thus, I will be resigning my seat on the federal executive of the NDP and my membership to the party, and I'll be joining the Green Party of Canada and New Brunswick, and I invite my NDP colleagues to do the same. The Green Party... Thanks. The Green Party of Canada has been steadfast in their beliefs, never flip-flopping to achieve their goals. I believe that we can no longer ignore the climate catastrophe, and we need a movement that leads by example around the world before it's too late. Now, the only thing that here, so me alone doing this switch is not a huge thing, because I'm mostly in the back rooms and stuff like that. But we do also have come attached with a declaration of support, which we'll provide to everybody. And it includes, myself signing it, Joyce Richardson, who was the NDP candidate for Dieppe in 2018. Lise Potvin, who was the NDP candidate for Chediac-Beaubassin-Capellet in 2018. Willie Robichaud, who was the NDP candidate for Miramichi-Bay-Niguac in 2018. Albert Roussel, who was the NDP candidate for Shippagan-Lamec-Miscou in 2018. A lot of clapping. I got 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 left. So let me get through it all. Hurts. Ann Richardson, the NDP candidate for Petitcodiac-Gagetown 2018. Justin Young, the NDP candidate for Oromocto-Lincoln-Fredericton 2018. Jean-Maurice Landry, the NDP candidate for Bathurst East, Nipisiguit-Saint-Isidore 2018. Jessica Casey, the NDP candidate for Moncton Centre 2018. Lina Chiasson, the NDP candidate for Victoria-La-Vallée 2018. Cécile Richard-Hébert, NDP candidate for Madawaska-Les-Lacs-Edmundston for 2018. Francis Duguay, the NDP candidate for Tracadie-Shyla in 2018. Haley Duffy, the NDP candidate for Moncton Southwest in 2018. Madison Duffy, for the NDP candidate for Riverview 2018. And Betty Weir, the NDP candidate for Albert in 2018. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup, Jonathan. Thanks, Jonathan. I would like to now invite my friend, my leader, Monsieur David Coon.
Merci, Marco. Merci. Thank you, Jonathan. It's great to see everyone here. J'espère que toutes les personnes ici, vous avez passé un bon été avec vos familles. I hope you've had a good summer so far, because it's not quite over. So a little bit more warm weather to enjoy, I hope. I want to welcome Jonathan and all of the former members of the New Democrats who have made the decision to join the Green Party of New Brunswick and the Green Party of Canada. Your commitment to your communities, to improving the lives of the most vulnerable, to the experience that you bring as candidates, as organizers, represents a most welcome addition to our party. I thank you, I salute you, I appreciate your decision. Il n'est pas facile de quitter son domicile politique pour un nouveau parti, bien sûr. Je l'ai appris en m'adressant aux Néo-Brunswickois qui ont voté Vert pour la première fois lors des dernières élections. Traditionnellement, votre identité était attachée à votre politique, au Nouveau-Brunswick spécialement. Mais cela est en train de changer, comme nous en sommes témoins aujourd'hui. The NDP New Brunswick has made important contributions to our province under the leadership of people such as John Labossiere, George Little, Bob Hall, and Elizabeth Weir, all of whom I've had the honor of knowing and working with. In particular, Elizabeth Weir, whose work in the Legislative Assembly was an inspiration for me long before I decided to get into politics. And of course, nationally, Tommy Douglas, widely recognized by all Canadians as the greatest of Canadians. La réalité mondiale est tout autre maintenant. Les temps ont changé et le Parti vert est maintenant le parti de notre temps. As Greens, our commitment to social justice, which we share with the NDP, extends to ecological justice, recognizing that healthy soil, clean water and air, a stable climate, functioning forests, and a diversity of wildlife and plants are essential to our health and to our well-being. And it's only the Green Party that at its core understands that we do not exist outside of the natural world. There's nothing outside of the environment, but we're part of it. Just look at how the old parties have managed our forests in New Brunswick, how they've directed NB Power to operate, and how they've designed our transportation systems. Despite decades of warnings, we have fundamentally changed the very chemistry of our atmosphere and oceans, and damaged the life-sustaining ecosystems that support us to the point where our well-being is now being compromised. It's clear now that climate breakdown, for example, means we have to take urgent steps here in New Brunswick to protect our families and our communities from its consequences, such as flooding and Lyme disease. At the same time, as we necessarily must rebuild our energy and transportation systems over time to enable us to move away from fossil fuels. One of the clear defining lines that's emerging in this federal election is between those who are dedicated to the exploitation of the earth and those dedicated to its preservation as our only home. The Green Party has become the obvious choice for those who are fed up with the old parties in New Brunswick, with consecutive governments pandering to the Irvings and others who wield power and money. We become the obvious choice for those who are alarmed by the state of our health and social services brought on by cuts and neglect by successive governments, both liberal and conservative. And we are the obvious choice for those who become disillusioned by the lack of compassion in successive governments today. And finally, we're the obvious choice for those who worry about the kind of future we're leaving for our children. I salute the courage of our new members. I encourage those who have long identified with other parties but no longer feel at home there to join us as well. This, indeed, is a good day for New Brunswick. I want to invite the others up to the front. Joyce and the others, if you want to
Yes, they weren't all able to be
join
here
us
today,
here.
but some of them were able to show up.
So that's great to have some representation.
Vous voulez venir nous rejoindre? Oui. Juste vous installer en arrière, peut-être. Ah, ben non, là, ça peut aller. Vous vous installer un peu plus en arrière de la table.
So I'll present the, you get to wear the t-shirt now, Jonathan, so
The t-shirt.
there you go. Yeah. Stand there.
Ah, ben oui.
Okay. Oh.
Approchez-vous un peu, collez-vous un peu des.
All right.
Excellent.
That's ready.
All right.
Okay.
All right.
So we're going to go
Thank
to
you. Merci, vous pouvez reprendre dans vos sièges. Merci beaucoup. Merci beaucoup. Merci, M. Roussel. Merci bien. On va annoncer les scrums tout à l'heure. Si vous voulez parler avec les médias, vous aurez la chance. OK? All right. Merci beaucoup. Merci. J'aimerais souligner que cette merveilleuse journée se déroule sur les territoires ancestraux des Passamaquoddy, des Micmacs et des Malécites. C'est vraiment important pour nous. I want to acknowledge that this great day is happening on the traditional land of the Mi'kmaq, the Maliseet, and the Passamaquoddy people. Thank you. Now, obviously, this little tiny bit of news has impact for the Canada federal election upcoming, and I'd like to invite Jenica Atwin to come and say a few words on behalf of the Green Party of Canada.
Bonjour, merci. Je tiens à vous souhaiter une bienvenue à vous, Joyce, Jonathan, Jessica et vous tous, anciens membres de NPD. Vous démontrez beaucoup de courage en faisant cette démarche et en mettant l'intérêt de nos communautés au-dessus de celui des partis politiques. The values of the Green Party are resonating across Canada, especially here in New Brunswick and on Prince Edward Island. Nos députés verts travaillent de manière courageuse et intégrée pour le bien-être de nos communautés. Les enjeux de la prochaine élection sont importantes pour notre avenir et pour celui de nos enfants. Cela va exiger la mise en commun et la solidarité de tous ceux et celles qui comprennent la nécessité d'agir et que la mission est possible. Our campaign is built by and with a team of volunteers from across the political spectrum. I can say that door to door in my riding of Fredericton and the surrounding areas, that people are interested in lending their support to us and abandoning their historic voting patterns. This is a very special time. I would like to thank once again the newest members of the Green Party of Canada and of New Brunswick, and I'm very hopeful that with your support and cooperation, we will elect several Green MPs from New Brunswick on October 21st. Merci. Walalan.
Now, the journalists, do you want to take the question to our guest here right now? Vous voulez prendre les questions tout de suite? Avec David puis Jonathan, OK? Puis ils vont se lever à chaque fois pour répondre à vos questions. David, si tu veux venir. Tu veux venir au micro, ouais. Voilà. Monsieur Coon, 14 nouveaux membres pour le Parti vert du Nouveau-Brunswick. À quel point ça peut vouloir dire un député élu pour l'élection fédérale qui s'en vient?
Bon, clairement, cette élection, on attend pour l'élection du 2 ou 3 députés fédéraux verts pour Nouveau-Brunswick et peut-être les Princes-Édouard aussi. C'est clair. Il y a une grande vague maintenant, vague verte dans notre région. Le résultat sera bien sûr l'élection des députés fédéraux verts.
Could I ask you the same question in English? So what, with the federal election coming up, what can we expect with these 14 candidates?
Well, clearly, as far as the 14 new candidates, these candidates ran in the last provincial election as New Democrats and have made the decision to move over to the Green Party. And so I'm looking forward to working with them as we prepare for the next provincial election. As you know, we have a minority government, and so who knows when that will be. And so we've got to be preparing now. And as I mentioned in my comments, the experience that these former NDP candidates and organizers bring is invaluable to increase the capacity of the Greens in New Brunswick coming as we look towards the next election. Federally, we will, as you probably know, there's only 2 spots, maybe 1. I think there was an announcement this morning by the Federal Green Party on the 5th or the 9th candidate for New Brunswick, and that leaves 1 more, which is in the works to fill the 10 ridings with Green candidates. What I'm saying is for sure, given the electoral success here in New Brunswick and in Prince Edward Island, we will see Green MPs elected in New Brunswick and on the island on October the 21st. So that will put New Brunswickers and Islanders in a number of seats where they'll be represented both by a Green MLA and a Green MP federally, and that's exciting.
Mr. Coon, what's the long-term vision of these 14 candidates? What roles will they play within the party, both federally and provincially?
Well, they're candidates and organizers as well. So we'll be talking about how and who can best contribute in terms of their skills and experience in organizing, helping to grow our party and prepare for the next upcoming election. And I certainly hope that many of the former NDP candidates will step forward and present themselves to be considered as Green candidates for the next provincial election. We'll seek, and that they'll seek those nominations in their ridings. We haven't had those discussions yet, but given their experience and their interest and their commitment to their communities, I fully expect many of them will be wanting to seek those nominations locally.
I don't know when you first learned about this big move, but what was your initial reaction when you heard this plan?
Well, I was actually on vacation with my family, the first family trip in 10 years we've had, and so I was extremely excited, humbled, because as I said in my remarks, it's a very difficult thing to make the decision to move from a party that you've run for, that you've organized for, to another party. Because I hear that all the time from voters who have made the decision to abandon their traditional voting pattern of voting for the particular party they identified and voting Green. It's a huge decision. It's not easy to make, and it's based on trust. It's based on faith that the new party you're moving to will respect your passion, your interests, your experience, and its voters will hold those new votes in trust and respect them and treat them well. So I've come to understand how significant that is for so many people. And so when I saw the email, I understood immediately that this was something that came after long reflection, was not easy for anyone to reach the decision around. So that's why I say it's humbling that people who have been so committed to their former party as candidates and as organizers over a period of years made this decision, and I'm thankful and grateful for that. No, I don't have concerns at all about that. The trend clearly is, as far as the Greens go, people increasingly are moving from their traditional voting patterns, the traditional work they've done for other parties, to the Green Party. And so that's the phenomena, and everyone's feeling it. And of course, voters have been making those decisions. So I think it will appear quite normal in a sense to voters that those who have been active as candidates or organizers for the New Democrats, for example, moving over to the Green Party, that just reflects and mirrors the decisions they've made themselves as voters.
Monsieur Coon, en français, vous l'avez dit en anglais, mais quel sentiment vous a habité quand vous avez su que 14 nouveaux membres allaient joindre le Parti vert? Comment vous êtes senti? Quel sentiment vous a habité à ce moment?
Pour moi, c'est clair, il représente une décision profonde sur le côté de chaque personne, chaque ancien candidat de NPD, sur le côté de Jonathan Richardson aussi, comme une personne qui était très impliquée au niveau de l'organisation de l'NPD, au niveau fédéral, au niveau provincial. Donc, pour moi, je suis très fier que Jonathan et les autres ont décidé de faire les grandes décisions, de prendre une place dans notre parti.
14 anciens candidats provinciaux. On sait qu'au niveau des candidatures fédérales, il reste encore des candidatures à combler. Je pense que les fédérales en étaient à 6 sur 10. Donc il reste 4 candidats à trouver pour les élections fédérales. Est-ce que dans les 14, il y en a qui vont devenir des candidats pour les élections fédérales?
Je ne sais pas. C'est une décision les candidats. Il y a un processus fédéral pour de décider les personnes qui va présenter comme candidat fédéral. Donc, comme vous, j'attends pour les décisions des candidats.
Une dernière question. On a vu que, vous l'avez dit vous-même, les Verts ont le vent dans les voiles. On l'a vu dans les dernières élections provinciales au Nouveau-Brunswick. On a vu que le NPD avait baissé dans les intentions de vote. Je lis dans le communiqué d'aujourd'hui que vous demandez l'unification des forces progressistes. Est-ce que c'est un appel pour fusionner le parti provincial NPD au vert?
Ce n'est pas une demande pour un processus de fusionner les deux partis, juste c'est une invitation. C'est une invitation pour les autres de devenir un membre de le Parti vert aussi. C'est comme Jonathan et les autres ont décidé aujourd'hui.
I have a question for John. I was just wondering if you could tell us a little bit more about your decision and why you've lost faith in the NDP.
Being on the federal executive, so that's the equivalent of being on the board of directors for an organization. So, and I represent all of Atlantic Canada, so I do have kind of this insight of how things are going. And to be truthful, their focus is just not in Atlantic Canada. Jagmeet Singh has made some very focused appeals, that he wants to go in more diverse regions, larger metropolitan type areas, and that's just a reality of the election. You got to go where you're going to get your votes. So at the end of the day, as being, first I've been in those positions for a long time, even when former presidents of the party have been there, and they've always had the kind of conversation, kind of said, you're not that many seats. So at the end of the day, you try and have a loud voice as much as possible before you start annoying people. And then eventually you got to make a decision, and you got to say, and that's where David Coon said, because I tried to meet with a lot of Green people at the NDP and say, is there a merger possibility? Is there a possibility to do these things? But there are some people who are members of the NDP, and like I said in my speech, they mean very well. But they are more attached to the branding than the ultimate goal, which is to help people. And I am here to help people. So eventually, there are no candidates for the NDP in New Brunswick or PEI for the federal election. I've actually just received a call from the organizer, pleading for my help to keep finding these candidates. And I said, at the end of the day, this is the decision that I've made. I've informed them of that decision, and obviously they're not pleased. I'm obviously not thrilled to be saying that to my friends that I'm going to be moving on, but at the end of the day, I made a commitment when I was at the John Howard Society, and I even met David Coon back those days, where I had clients. I'm like, "What do you do?" And then David Coon kind of gave me the look, kind of like, this is how the system works, and we got to fight politically to kind of change these things. I was like, when the police officers used to answer the door, and he's like, "Oh, do you have $3,000 for a lawyer?" And I said, "Well, no, they're homeless." And then they would just say, "Welcome to the system," and there was just no way that I was going to accept that as an answer. So it was a long time coming. I live in Fredericton, so it was easy to intermingle with the Greens there because with Fair Vote Canada or the Council of Canadians. So it wasn't like I don't know anybody. So it's it's good to know. But eventually you come to that decision, why are you doing this? And this, I have to help. As a behavior analyst, I help very aggressive children who, if I can't help them, they're going to end up in prison or an institution. So it's and the only thing that's standing between me and helping them is government funding usually. So if they took a more proactive approach in trying to help these children, we wouldn't get to the point where they're hitting people 180 times a day. But so that's why I'm in it. I know that's why a lot of the candidates who have signed this declaration have been in it. Being part of this, I've heard members saying for years, why aren't we working with the Green Party? Why aren't we working with the Green Party? And the reason why, and to be frank, it's because the leadership of the NDP saw themselves as an ideological body who wanted to bring in sort of ideologies and not necessarily what was in the best interest of people. Not saying that those ideologies wouldn't help people, but they just couldn't see the bigger picture, in my opinion.
Même question en français, M.
Oui.
Richardson. Pourquoi avoir pris cette décision vous étiez quand même pour l'exécutif national du NPD.
Oui.
Pourquoi avoir pris cette décision?
Oui. Je suis aussi sur le comité de planification d'élection pour Jagmeet Singh. So, je sais vraiment qu'est-ce qui est en train d'arriver dans cette poste-là. Je ne vais pas être capable de répéter toute la même chose que je viens juste de dire, là, mais je vais faire plus court. Je m'excuse. OK, sound bites. OK. Um, I know how this works. Moi, je suis rentré dans les politiques parce que je voulais vraiment aider le monde. J'ai eu beaucoup de travail sans profit, puis différents travails. Puis c'est toujours le gouvernement puis l'argent qu'ils donnent pour faire le travail qui a évité le monde de devenir mieux puis sortir de la pauvreté ou différents services qu'il y avait besoin. Mais à la fin de la journée, il n'y a pas d'NPD dans la province fédérale. Il n'y a pas d'NPD provincial. Il y en a qui sont en train de tenir pour ça, puis je suis vraiment content qu'ils sont passionnés à propos de ça, mais la réalité, c'est que la force progressiste de cette province est avec le Parti vert. Puis si je veux vraiment aider mes clients, puis je veux vraiment aider le monde qui ont le besoin le plus, il faut que je fasse la décision d'aller avec qu'est-ce qui est en train de marcher, puis tout de suite, comme moi, j'ai pas vraiment de différence d'idéologie entre moi et David Coon, là, parce que c'est vraiment comme l'environnement. Comme je dis à tout le monde, il n'y a pas vraiment de job que tu peux avoir si tu es en train de nager. Ça, c'est le numéro 1, mais aussi pour prendre soin de ceux qui ont besoin le plus.
What do you think this says about the state of the NTP, just heading into the federal election?
Well, that was always going to be an issue, and I remember bringing that up a lot of times during the election planning committee. How are you going to deal with first of all, the racism? There is an undertone of racism throughout this country that exists, and that's just inevitable. I've gone to a lot of different campaigns, and I've heard very racist comments from people that I thought were very progressive. So I think that was always an obstacle to begin with, but also with the NDP's focus kind of not being in Atlantic Canada, we made a lot of push to have an Atlantic organizer, to have people in Atlantic Canada, but in the end of the day, they had to make decisions that would save them the most seats.
Do you think that this jump of ship will see the party dissolve?
In New Brunswick, it already was dissolving. Like you'll see in the declaration, there was no ability to bring in leadership candidates. We couldn't reach quorum at the provincial council level. So being on the federal executive, I get to have a seat as a representative on the provincial party as well. So it's kind of like an in-between to make sure, because they're using the same branding. But at that point, I've made it very clear that where did they see things going, and there wasn't any, they're still trying to keep the lights on, if you'd say, so they don't, that challenge alone doesn't allow them to have organizers, or to have any staff people, or to have any motivated volunteers to actually go out and do the work that's necessary to do.
Est-ce que vous pensez que le NPD provincial est mort?
Oui, vraiment. Puis j'ai ôté ma voix plusieurs fois au comité exécutif puis provincial du Parti provincial. Puis j'ai dit que si tu veux avoir des changements, il faut vraiment qu'on devienne un nouveau parti qui a une nouvelle mission, qui a des raisons, parce qu'on ne peut pas dire qu'on est le parti de la gauche, parce que David Coon est déjà là. Puis on ne peut pas dire moi j'ai dit, mais à la fin de la journée, c'était pas vraiment leur vision. Leur vision, c'était la démocratie socialiste. Puis même s'ils allaient perdre croyant leurs affaires. Puis je suis d'accord avec eux autres dans ce bord-là. Si c'est quelque chose que tu crois dans, il faut que tu continues. Mais moi, je crois dans devenir le gouvernement pour aider du monde. Perfect.
Merci beaucoup. Alors évidemment, Jenica est disponible pour des entrevues. Jenica is available for interviews. David and Jonathan as well, and there's Tim also. They're yours.
Yeah, come get us.